as far as I guess free speech goes, we'll kind of shift back to this.
Mhm.
What do you think about um, platforming certain individuals, like giving certain people a platform? Do you think that everyone should have a voice?
Well, I think it depends on the context of the platforming. There are a
Okay.
lot of people on the left who dislike me because they think I give a voice to right-wingers by having them on my show. And it's true. I mean, I've talked to, some like Tim Pool twice, Charlie Kirk. I've definitely talked to some larger figures on the right. But my argument in instances like these is that my platforming is responsible because I speak with them with the specific intention of moving their audience to the left. And I'm confident in my ability to at least, come off looking okay. Not always, but most of the time. There are some people on the left who think there's just it's just a bad thing no matter what, but I disagree. With regards to responsible platforming, though, I think you more mean like social media platforms, should people have accounts? And to that, my answer is, and I go really back and forth on this. I want to be hyperbolic and say no, but in reality, I think that there's a horrible, difficult balance between preserving the right to the public commons and establishing rules that discourage or outright prohibit like really bad behavior. And I think that websites benefit from having terms of service that explicitly prohibit like bigotry. So that is a slippery slope because like bigotry, right? I've said the N-word on my YouTube channel, hard R. I don't want my channel deleted.
Let's go.
Yeah, I would
Good
prefer it
work.
actually stay up,
Okay.
But I maybe there's another person who's never said the N-word, but their channel is all about promoting race realism, Should YouTube nuke that? Yeah, sure, I don't fucking care.
Well, what race realists is that people who I mean I've had atheism is unstoppable and I think he calls himself a race realist. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's with respect, psychopath. But yes, he's been in my comments a few times. And you've had Stefan Molyneux on as well, who's one of
Stefan
the
Molyneux, yeah.
preeminent race realists.
Okay, so what do you I guess do you not like Devin Tracy or atheism is unstoppable? Like
I
I thought
think
he was
I
pretty
think
cool, honestly.
I think he's absolutely insane. That would be my first prescription. Like, leave politics aside, I think he's insane. But I guess if I were to move past that, I think I've honestly forgotten most of what he believes outside of the insanity. I would actually have to go like reevaluate. I it's probably pretty bad. It's probably pretty
Okay.
bad stuff. Yeah.
What are the I guess because you mentioned Tim Pool, Charlie Kirk. What are the more I guess who is the most right wing person you've talked to? Have you talked to someone like um Fuentes or Spencer or
Spencer. Wait, did Spencer want to come on, or am I thinking of another person? I never talked to Spencer. Fuentes is a pussy. He ducked me for 2 consecutive years,
really?
because he didn't want to debate me without a moderator, and I'm getting really bored. And now I'm on YouTube, and he's off everything, so I'm rapidly losing interest with that.
You don't want to have a moderator debate?
Oh no, he's moderators give an unjustified level of professionalism to conversations with people like him. He doesn't
Hmm.
actually care about any of the relevant info, which is blood sports. Why have a moderator for blood sports? He's going to come on and call me fat. I mean, what do I want a moderator there to go like, no, like it's just it's
Okay,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, he's worried about me muting him. I've muted like people 3 times. I don't care what it is. But I've talked to Stefan Molyneux. He's pretty far right. He's basically a Nazi. I've talked to a decent number of smaller Nazi channels. I've definitely cavorted around with the far right a good number of times.
Yeah.
Though it's less so now. The alt-right's kind of dying a little bit. Now it's more like the QAnon, like evangelical Christian crowd, and I try to keep my thoughts where they're relevant. So I'm hoping to get debates with them in the future.
Okay. I mean, I do want to see a debate between you and Nick. I don't really follow Nick. I did watch a couple of his streams. He is entertaining and good on camera, but I mean, I've invited him on this show. He ignores me. He knows who I am because a couple of super chatters mentioned me. But he is someone who strikes me as every time I hear about like someone's public interaction with him, it sounds like he's pretty socially awkward.
Yeah, that
So,
wouldn't surprise me. I
and
think look, with respect, Fuentes is never going to be moved over because he makes money from this, a lot of money. I saw that big Bitcoin transfer. Whew. He gets banked from this, but most of the people who follow Fuentes, because I've talked to his fans, they call themselves gropers, are deeply emotionally immature people. And I don't mean that in some kind of patronizing, generic insult way. I mean that literally, like, there's an element of their personal identity that they're either uncomfortable with or haven't fully adopted, and they're looking for a kind of group identity to attach themselves to. I believe a person should be fully self-actualized, but that is in contrast with this, like, racial or national obsession that a lot of the far right likes to engage in. And so often it's like this fear thing too, right? Like, it's the reason why there's so much interracial porn on 4chan right next to all the racists. It's like, you know, you know, I could talk for an hour. I'll just say this, okay? One of the most common things that happened to escaped slaves back in the, you know, slave days was they'd be caught, they'd be hanged, of course, but they would be castrated too. And, you know, you'd think if we're racist, you wouldn't want you get your hands all over black dick, but it was very pervasive back then. The idea that the almost animalistically powerful sexuality of black men would, you know, they'd have sex with white women and white women would like it more. I mean, that's like a hundreds and hundreds of year old trope. That trope, the most racist people are the ones most obsessed with black men's virility. It's really weird. It's very clearly like some kind of insecurity thing. So I guess I don't know. I guess I'm hoping that for a lot of the young people in the alt-right, there's just kind of like an emotional breakthrough they can make, and then they'll be maybe a little better. Not a leftist, but, you know, a little better.
So I do have a lot of a good amount of my followers do consider themselves gropers. I've definitely heard this term a lot. Do you? I mean, so what you think that they're kind of? What was it you were saying that they didn't? Something about self-actualization or something?
Well, there are a lot of sociological things tying into this. I think basically they are extremely disillusioned with the world, which, hey, buddy, people are on the left too. They're extremely disillusioned with the world, and they've adopted a kind of an almost empirical nihilism where they no longer really believe in the value of facts or of information or even like reason conceptually. And instead to them, it's just this void power game that they play into with deliberate, like detached cynicism. So, because when you argue with them online, they don't really argue with you. They just kind of banty about. They'll insult you. They'll say things they don't even believe. They're full Joker mode, and they take pride in that. That's why, even though the Joker was a great movie for everyone, there is an obsession with the Joker moniker, the aesthetic on the far right. It's that Pagliacci shit, you know, be a clown while the world is burning. But it's really not, you know. There are things we can do to improve the world, and I swear to God, 98% of the shit that I believe in would objectively improve their lives. What they don't want more economic equality. They don't want like people to have higher standards of living. So there are things that you can do. Ultimately, when you leave all analysis at the door and you rely purely on these nihilistic power games, you remove of yourself the ability to make meaningful change and give yourself in the hands of demagogues, grifters, of strongmen, and you leave everything up to them. And that's what's happened with fascist movements the world round. People get angry, disillusioned, and they trust everything to a person who briefly abates their nihilism by achieving the power that they think will be used to make things better. But it never does. Ever. It has never succeeded. So clearly that's not an effective strategy for making the world better.
So, I mean, I don't know much about, like, I guess what these people do. I mean, I do agree, like, they tend to be like more joking online, trolling. They're always anonymous for the most part. But I mean, I don't take issue with that. Like, I mean, I haven't experienced any bad interaction with them, of course, because they do like the guests I've had. But I mean, I don't really see an issue with being anonymous online, trolling. Of course, I think a lot of them joke about saying the N-word and stuff. I mean, which I mean, I have too, but I mean, it's like that's not they joke about like racist things while they're not actually that way. When you actually talk to a couple of them, I have before, but I mean, I don't see an issue with that. Like, I actually kind of like that sort of internet interaction, especially if you're going to be anonymous and you're just going to be on the internet for fun.
Well, it depends on what you're doing, right? I don't have an issue with anonymity. That's the way our internet is. I mean, It has upsides and downsides, I guess, but I'm not challenging that, really. And I don't have an issue with irony or trolling, I guess. It's just, what are you doing it for? The whole, like, well, are you racist, aren't you thing. I mean, I've seen the game play out a bunch of times. You know, I'm certainly not a stranger to it. And, like, I don't really believe in the ironic detached racism. That was kind of like a myth for a while, especially on 4chan. Like, oh, we say the N-word all the time, constantly repeat racist jokes to each other, but we're not actually, like, racist. And then, like, yeah, they were. Poll was formed to contain them. They clearly are. They did obviously all believe that. The problem is that they don't really believe anything that much. So what they believe, at least what they say they believe, kind of is rooted in what's most convenient to them at the moment, you know? If you're talking with them like, are you actually racist? Like, maybe in that moment they genuinely think that they're not, but that's empirical nihilism, right? It's a consequence of anonymity and of trolling. What do you actually believe? Who knows? What day is it? What moon cycle is it? None of it matters anymore. But this isn't how you build political power. Ironic detachment is the opposite. It's how you annul people to political power. You throw your power behind others, but you don't speak it yourself. You're just blindly following trends and movements. It's just, I don't know. I just don't think it's a very effective way at achieving positive social change. But that's the convo I want to have with these types, right? Like, well, what positive social changes do you want to make? Usually they sputter. If they actually have anything to say, it's some vague Western civilization, immigration birth rate shit, which is easy to pull apart. But 5 minutes into that argument, they stop talking about the stats anymore. They just start trolling again. I've had that happen so many times. You try to have a real convo, and when they realize, like, oh shit, wait, hold on, people do research into this, then they go right back to the, like, the groper memeing. So I think that's a bit sad, personally.
I don't know. I think I don't know about their effectiveness. I do think that Fuentes is, I mean, like you said, he's making a lot of money doing what he's doing. I don't know how actually effective he's doing. I don't like his he would stick to this, like, trust the plan thing. Like, we're like, if you're a viewer and you're trying to understand the person you're watching, like, wouldn't you want to know, like, what the plan is? Or
Nick Fuentes' plan is to make a lot of money off his audience. Everything is secondary to that.
So you think he's a grifter?
I don't think there's anything but grifters in that. Same with Molyneux. I mean, the dude literally led a cult before he had a cult where, like, tier 3 subs got to, like, meet him in person. Yeah, I think I know where his priorities lie. He's always bitching about his lower sub and donation count and his BitChute now that he's banned off everything else. I think but I don't think there can really be anything else. I mean, that's kind of the leader you deserve when, like, all you know is epic trolling and N-word jokes, right? Like, you know, I'm not saying everyone has to be, like, a political philosopher or anything, but even underneath, like, all the lefty trolling, and there are plenty of lefty trolls, there's usually kind of like a general grounding political ideology that they can rely on, and you can defer to that, like, underneath the jokes. Well, what do you think we should have? What do you think we should do? But if there's nothing beneath that, I mean, you're a pay pig. Your leaders make money off of you. They'll tell you whatever they need to. Maybe one day you'll get a fascist revolution, and if you do, it probably won't make your life any better. Have fun. It's just like, well, fuck. That's no wonder they're sad, you know?
So would you say, I guess, the difference between you and I mean, do you, because I guess people who do this do make money. What is the difference between, I guess, you and somebody? Is it because you're more clear about your goals, or?
Yeah, well, I'm not to say I'm perfect. Obviously, I like making money too. I wouldn't fault anyone for making money off their the content they produce, but the goals that I have are specific and deliberate. I have a philosophical perspective that I can relate my political beliefs to, and I'm forthcoming when asked about them. But I don't have to rely on this, what did Fuentes call it, his tactical language, like, where he wants to say something, but he means the other thing, and then he's like, because he doesn't believe the Holocaust, or at least he doesn't believe the narrative, like, clearly. But, he'll, oh, well, I was joking. Like, I think that's bullshit. It's cuck behavior, too, to run away from the things that you believe in. Even if it gets you axed off social media, I mean, it's always this, like, how can you trust a person you're getting political info from if they've admitted that they're willing to lie for like the expediency of keeping their Google AdSense account up? I mean, how do you even build anything off of that? What does it even mean? And say he believed everything intently. Like, again, what are we building towards exactly? I've seen Nick Fuentes' show. Immigration this, immigration that. Immigration makes our country better. All stats and data prove it. But when you say that to them, they'll go, stats and data, and they'll post, like, a Jewish caricature or something. They will, because they don't care.
That's pretty funny, though.
But would you want your country led by people like that?
I don't know. No. I don't really trust anyone, to be honest.
Do you think
Like, I
that's
guess
comparable though to like economists, like people who are like, you know, I have no beliefs or plans outside of being anti-Semitic. Like I feel like that's probably not a very functioning society.
I know there are definitely a lot of jokes around the Holocaust and
Oh, they
Jewish
find it
people
very
and
funny,
blacks and
yeah.
stuff. Right. But
But
I don't think
that's
that
a bit telling, isn't it? I mean, that all their humor is like, haha, we're ironically Nazis, and then they never do anything else. Like, that's a bit telling, right? I mean, again, I don't
yeah.
hide behind jokes. Do I make jokes about the wealthy people or cops? Yes, but I'm a leftist. I'm clear. I'm a communist. I'm clear about this. I don't. If people heard my jokes and they're like, well, that sounded kind of commie to me. Like, I wouldn't run from that. Like, yeah, I'm a communist. It influences my humor. But they're always running from it. They hide, oh, we're not Nazis. We just enjoy the iconography, the political positions, and we make jokes that would have been basically the jokes they would have told to each other, albeit in German 80 years ago. It's like, okay, all right, believe. And they're cowards, so they express it through comedy. Also, a lot of them are like 13, so,
That's that might be true. That might be true. I mean, I've even interacted with people who support Fuentes or like him or enjoy watching him, but will specifically say they're not a groper and they don't like gropers. I don't know. I guess, is there some sort of initiation, or is it just a fan of Fuentes as a groper?
I don't know. You could
Is it like a Proud Boy
self-identify.
sort of
There,
deal?
I'm sure there are people who aren't Nazis or who aren't even conservative who watch Fuentes because they're for the same reason people watch Serbian beheading videos. I mean, people just enjoy a lot of types of content. But when we're
Yeah.
talking about political advocacy, I think we have a moral responsibility to advocate for things that are good. And if like we're talking about, like, let's talk communities, right? Like, well, here's a community where they don't seem to believe in data as a concept, and the most common talking points in them are just them being Nazis, but they laugh at it. Is this a community from which I will get good political takes? And if you're a Nazi, the answer is yes, right? But at least we have to be forthcoming about that. That it's not just ironic detachment, that these are the things they believe. And then we can tear those issues apart, because having argued with them, they tend to have pretty bad arguments. Like the immigration thing, for example. Like, Lord knows, how many immigration arguments have I had? Dozens, at least, at this point, and not a single point conceded. It's laughably easy. It just benefits us, like, across the board. You can talk about integration or interracial marriage or any of that bullshit, race realism. It all falls apart for them, and then it goes right back to the jokes, because they don't really care.